Sharing with folks in the background, I think that forums are the cornerstone of democracy. I know some people may not think forums are great, but it is one of the opportunities for you to really hear from candidates and what they want to do for you and how they want to support you and how they're going to represent your district. And it's just one of those things of retail politics that I think is, really beautiful about our democracy. So, and you all being here makes that dream real. So thank you all for being here and being a part of this conversation with these two wonderful candidates that we have tonight. Before we get started, I want to thank the co-hosts for this event. It wouldn't have happened without them, and this crowd wouldn't be as big without people really sharing this information. So I want to make sure we thank our co-hosts, the East Nashtivists, Planned Parenthood of Tennessee, North Mississippi, Welcome at Nashville, the Nashville Scene, the Nashville Post, Nashville Women's Collective, Inglewood Neighborhood Association, Lockland Springs Neighborhood Association, Shelby Hills Neighborhood Association, East End Neighborhood Association, Nashville Neighborhood Association, and East Hill Neighborhood Association. All the neighborhoods up here. So I want to make sure that you all understand what we're doing here, so what the forum is going to be like. So I'm going to share the rules with you. The questions were submitted by the community, so thank you all who submitted questions. We got a lot of wonderful questions to ask our candidates, and we wanted to make sure that we could get to as many questions as possible. So to do that, we have set up a format that allows us to really ask as many questions as possible. So each candidate will get 90 seconds to answer each question. And then so that we can, again, keep up with all the questions and make sure we can ask as many questions as possible, we will not offer rebuttals on every question, but every candidate will have an opportunity to rebut at least 4 questions. So they can respond to at least, so both candidates will answer every question, except for the questions that are specifically for them. So there are a few questions that you all submitted that you wanted to ask each individual candidate. But they can rebut those questions if they want to. But they can rebut any of the questions that we're asking. So they'll have 90 seconds to answer both questions, and then they'll have up to 4 rebuttals for every question. Okay? The coin toss has happened already, so we will start with an introduction of the candidates, so they'll have a chance to let you get to know them in a quick intro, and then we'll hop right into the questions, and at the end we'll do just a fun little quick question to get to know you, so you can learn some things about them that aren't particularly about their neighborhood and the issues that each neighborhood faced. Are we ready? Are y'all ready? Cool. Well, I am ready. Well, Aftyn's team won the coin toss. So we have, and before we get started, I just want to make sure we know everyone in this room, though I believe you probably do know. We have each candidate. We have Anthony Davis. Woo! We have Aftyn Behn. Woo! And since Aftyn won the coin toss, she will be the first one to go to do her introduction. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for the intro. We have a timer here, so when you hear the little ding, that means your time is up. And we do want to respect the time limits because we want to make sure, again, that we can get through every question and we do this in a timely manner. So when you hear the ding, please wrap it up. Okay? Aftyn, to you.
All right, I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Aftyn Behn, and I'm running for State House District 51. Like so many of you, I was inspired by the political courage of the Tennessee 3 in April and decided to run for office. I have spent my entire career building progressive power in the state of Tennessee and building relationships with folks all across the state and across the country, especially with legislators and organizers that have discovered better ways to counter the extreme legislation that we're fighting that threatens our freedom, democracy, and choice. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to interview the women behind Roe versus Wade, and it's a story that many of you won't know. It's coming out on a podcast, surprise. But what I learned from them is that they were against all odds. And they went to the University of Texas. They were young women. They were dealing with misogyny and sexual harassment at their academic institutions, as well as in their doctor's offices. And when I asked them, how does it feel that Roe was overturned and your daughters have less rights than you had? And they said, it's your job to continue our legacy. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm fighting and running to continue their legacy to preserve abortion access in the state of Tennessee. I also want to say that it has been an honor to run for this district. I've met so many people and I have loved every single minute of it. My campaign slogan is "Let's care loudly for each other." And for those of you who don't watch Parks and Recreation, it is the first episode when Leslie Knope runs outside of a screaming town hall, not like this one, and she goes, "You know when I hear people yelling, I hear them caring loudly." And that's what I intend to do. I hope you all will care loudly with me next session, and I'm grateful for your support and for your vote.
Thank you so much, Mazia. Thank you to all the groups for having us here. Wish I could see everybody. The lights are so bright. But really nice to be with you this evening. My name is Anthony Davis, currently serving as your interim state representative, and would love to earn your vote and continue on as your state representative. Just a little bit about my background for those of you that don't know me. I'm a native Nashvilleian. Grew up in Bellevue originally to a single mother. My sister Mary Beth and I grew up together in Bellevue. Product of Metro schools. Thank you. Yeah, MNPS. I graduated from Martin Luther King back, I won't tell you what year, 1998. Graduated from MLK, went to school in West Tennessee, came home. I won't give you the full life story here. I'll keep it moving. But became a serial entrepreneur here in Nashville. Started my first company in 25, ran a company called iDesign. We were a fixture here in East Nashville across from the Maddox YMCA starting in 2007. We did website design and graphic design. You may remember us on Gallatin Road there. In 2014, and actually simultaneously, not only moved my company here, but Kim and I moved here to start, as we were at that point in our life, moved to the Rosebank area near Stratford High School in 2007. Been here 16 years in East Nashville. Love the community, just absolutely immersed myself in it, went all in right away. I've been chair of the Chamber East. I've been on the Maddox Y board. I've helped out at Stratford High School with many projects, Rosebank Neighbors, Rosebank PTA, you name it, I like to get involved. I like to roll my sleeves and get to work. Kim and I then later started a family here. It's the joy of my life. My two children, London and Julian, they attend Rosebank as well, so we've come full circle with the MNPS action. And very proud of our school. We love our school, Rosebank. So professionally then, sold iDesign, started East Nashville Beer Works. I'm sure we've got some fans out there. East Nashville Beer Works. I was getting there. I am in this plane of it. No, we intended to create something really special in the community with East Nashville Beer Works, and I think it was mission accomplished. We've become the most family and dog-friendly brewery in the state, is what I like to say. It's true. We have a playground. I mean, that tells you anything. We became a community fixture. Our whole thing is beer is community there, and it's been a real treat and a joy to get to know so many neighbors through that. And of course, I served on Metro Council 2 terms. Most of you know me from that, 2011 to 19. I'd like to call it, some people say I'd like to call myself one of the most progressive council members for the entire teens. My record speaks for itself. We'll probably talk about some of that tonight. Yeah, exactly what he said. We got a heckler already. Look forward to getting into more issues with you. Thank you so much for being here, and hope you can get to know me a little bit, and hope I can earn your votes tonight. Thank you.
All right, we're going to get into it now, right? So the questions, just to remind you all again, the questions were submitted by the community members online. And so some may have been slightly worded, just for reworded for clarification and content, but they were questions that were submitted by the community. Each candidate, again, has 90 seconds to answer each question. We will rotate who goes first, but I will make sure each candidate knows who goes first, just because you may lose track. And then you have an opportunity to rebut 4 of these questions, okay? All right, let's get started with the first question. It is for you. It's for both candidates. Anthony, you're going to answer this question first. Given our location and the profound influence that the music industry has on Nashville, we thought this is going to be a good question for us to kick off with, okay? Musicians and artists are finding more and more financially unsustainable to keep living in Music City. What's your message to them? And how will your agenda help them from having to move to a place more fiscally supportive of the arts?
That's a great question. And of course, we are Music City here and very proud of that. I think the initial message is we want you here. We want you to stay if you're a musician, and if you want to come to Nashville, we want to welcome you. We need our musicians here. We need our artists in our community. I've seen some great ideas floating around out there, and I know it's gotten really challenging. I mean, in the music industry especially, it's hard to make money in that industry. Whether it's the streaming thing or live shows, it's hard for them to make money. And then, of course, the cost of living here in Nashville, affordable housing being a huge issue. A couple of ideas I've seen floated that I really liked. A percentage of budgets, of course, that would be mainly metro budget, but if there's anything at the state level we can do as well to have funding for artists, projects, and collaborations. I've talked to some people in the film industry about some tax credits and some incentives we need to do for them. They're very interested in that at the state. We lose a lot of movies and film projects here in Nashville that we could have, in Tennessee in general, actually. So we could do more there. And one cool idea that I heard float around in the mayoral campaigns was about transitioning metro assets, which we have a lot of them. They're either underutilized or just completely unused, into some rehearsal space. I thought that was a really cool idea. Maybe we could do that with some state assets as well, but I could see it functioning like a community center where you've got someone in there working and artists come in and they can get rehearsal space, 1 hour at a time, that sort of thing. So just like our community centers are for our families, these spaces could be for artists.
Thank you. Aftyn?
Wonderful. So Nashville, musicians and artists make Nashville great, and they bring it to life. And there's three major issues affecting musicians and artists today. One is the affordability of Nashville. So with corporate handouts and driving inaffordability of the city, we have pushed artists out of being able to live in Nashville, which is a big problem. The second thing is transit. So as Nashville becomes more unaffordable and musicians and artists have to move to adjacent counties, there are no affordable transit options to bring them back into the city so that they can pay for parking, affordable parking, for example, to pay for their gigs. It's also really a bad option. The third element is healthcare. And for those of you who don't know, I was a Medicaid expansion organizer. I worked to preserve the Affordable Care Act in the years 2017 to 2019. And I believe at the state level, we can offer supplemental funding to provide musicians more incentives to buying marketplace coverage so that they're fully covered. And as a commitment and a promise, I will never pass legislation that makes any of these three things worse, because this is Music City, USA. It's not Titan City, USA.
Thank you. So the next question is also for both candidates. Aftyn, you will answer this question first. Given the current Republican supermajority in our state, what steps will you take to bring meaningful, progressive legislation to the floor? How will you be able to work with Republicans to get that legislation passed? And again, you have 90 seconds.
Also, I thought this was bourbon, so it made me a little nervous. It's water. So, in 2017, I was a Medicaid expansion lobbyist for the Tennessee Justice Center, and I would meet with legislators in Cordell Hall, one of which was a West Tennessee state senator, where you're from. And when I made my Medicaid expansion pitch, they would look at me and say, listen, I know Medicaid expansion is good for workforce development. I know it's good for our nurses. I know it's good for our elderly population, but I will never vote for it because it's a liberal policy. You cannot work with these people. Working across the aisle has rarely been effective in the last 10 years, okay? So what we need to do is, one, we need to continue organizing external pressure to the Republican supermajority, which is exactly what happened in April, when students and teachers came together and voiced their frustration and forced Governor Lee to call a special session. Yeah. Two, we need to organize in districts across the state. We have competitive state house districts. We're working to identify great candidates, and we can do that across the state ahead of 2024. And three, we need Democrats with backbones. We need to rebuild the Democratic Party so that there are progressives across the state that are willing to fight for our rights every single day. And I promise to do that.
Anthony?
Thank you for the question. What I've been talking to people about a lot at the doors and in the neighborhoods, first and foremost, when we're talking about legislation and dealing with the Republicans and the issues down there, we've got to play defense. And I always start with, we're going to vigorously defend our democratic values. We're not going to let them trample us on LGBT rights. We're not going to let them trample us on women's rights. We're got to play defense first and foremost. So we have to stand strong. We have to have backbone, as was said, and I absolutely believe that 100%. Then I usually say, I'm willing to work with people, and Representative Beck was that way. Legislation was passed. I'm not dying to go work with Republicans. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in any way looking forward to that. It's just, when you talk about issues like gun safety and things like that, I just want to move the ball forward like any way possible, any way we possibly can get anything done. And I think it's going to take building a coalition. Obviously, we're in a super minority situation, and I'm willing to look for that coalition. If there are a few moderate Republicans, if they've cracked the door here on ERPO, or if they've cracked the door on gun storage, to me, the root word of progressive is progress. Yeah. And if we can get anything done whatsoever, I'm willing to work together and move it forward.
We have a rebuttal. Oh, I love my bell. Isn't that fun? All right, Afton, you'll have 30 seconds for the rebuttal.
I just want to reiterate that I will never use our rights, our trans community rights, our abortion access rights as a bargaining chip for small wins of the legislature.
All right, so the next question is for both candidates. Anthony, you will answer this first. If elected, what will your first piece of legislation be?
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting one. I kind of took that in two parts. So we may have this special session. Of course, we hope we can pin the Republicans and Governor Lee to this special session. So I would love to sign on to anything that is for gun safety, of course, in the special session. I'm looking for any opportunities with that. I'm sure there are already sponsors for the red flag laws, for that sort of thing. That's already there. I did have a discussion. I was meeting with the Medical Doctors Association recently. And something that was really interesting to me was very personal, actually. If you remember the doctor that passed away or was a victim of gun violence, in Memphis the other week, that was a friend of mine from Lambeth, Dr. Ben Mock, same graduation class, and they are wanting to bring legislation that's related to gun safety and medical doctors and that sort of thing. So that's something that I'm interested in. I would love to carry that. They would have a Republican sponsor, and I may jump on. Back to regular session, I'd love to go bold with something. I mean, maybe the grocery tax, maybe something like that. But something I've been interested in, some women have been talking about, is the period tax. Why not go after that? Let's get rid of it. Let's take it down. I'm interested in anything that would be exciting like that, and anything we could possibly get accomplished.
Thank you. Afton.
So my first bill would be to curb the expanded state surveillance that is happening in the state of Tennessee against our trans communities and those seeking abortions and medical care outside the state of Tennessee. If you didn't know, the Attorney General of Tennessee, Jonathan Scrimetti, has filed subpoenas to obtain health records of our trans community. They're also seeking information and data from across state lines of those traveling to seek abortions. The first thing we need to do is we need to ensure that there are safeguards for healthcare providers that are providing care to these two communities and constituencies. Second, we need to make sure that they are not able to subpoena anything related to digital security, because they can pull subpoenas for geofencing, they can pull our digital history, and we need to make sure that we have protections against that. And third, we need transparency into the data sharing agreements amongst localities as well as regions and states, because guess what? The LPRs that are about to be passed at Metro, is it tomorrow? Those companies are selling our data to Republican attorney generals and supermajorities across the country. And my first piece of legislation will deal with exactly that, because I will stand up against the criminalization of our healthcare every single day.
We have another rebuttal. I love the bill. It's awesome.
I won't even call it a rebuttal. Just wanted to add to that, since we were talking about the surveillance state, definitely the LPR legislation has been very concerning, and I'm just want to reiterate that I'm highly concerned about this kind of growing surveillance state as well, and look forward to working on solutions to that. So thank you.
Okay. So the next question is also for both candidates. After you will answer this question first. And the next question comes from one of our event co-sponsors, Walk Bike Nashville. A decade ago, 68 pedestrians died in our state. Last year, that number was 210. In 10 years, we've seen a nearly 300% increase in pedestrian fatalities statewide. And I know that to be true because there was a pedestrian fatality at the end of my street last year. In 2022, a total of 1,314 people lost their lives on Tennessee roads. TDOT is not doing enough to reverse this trend. As a state representative, how will you leverage your seat to obtain state and federal funding for projects that both reduce fatalities and promote multimodal connectivity?
So this data is staggering, and it shouldn't have to be this way. As a state representative, I would commit to supporting Walk Bike Nashville's Vision Zero strategy, of which Mayor Cooper has implemented to some degree. I would also get behind any lobbying efforts or efforts to push this at the state legislature next session. I think transportation and infrastructure are two elements that we can have a bipartisan relationship in pushing legislation for. As a rural organizer in the state of Tennessee, I have worked with many people across the state that have disparate political ideologies, but when it comes to economic development and the beneficial consequences to our communities. Third, I think as Davidson County, we have the opportunity as a delegation to vote in a block to ensure that we procure the right amount of investment for our transportation, for connectivity, and to improve the fatality data. And then lastly, we have a major opportunity ahead, an organizing opportunity when it comes to the passenger rail. We have the opportunity to mobilize mayors all across the major hubs in support of this to build a passenger rail that works for all of us. And I think it's a really exciting time.
Thank you to Walk Bike for being here. Very much had a lot of experience with Walk Bike from the council days, and I look forward to continuing that at the state level. Couple things. First of all, it is appalling on our roads, Dickerson Pike, Gallatin Pike, all of our state corridors. I experience this every day on Trinity Lane. We've got just all kinds of madness going on. We did get bike pedestrian infrastructure there a little bit, but it's just so lacking everywhere you look on our state corridors. Look forward to working with them in every way possible. Constituent services, I kind of lump this under that bucket because I plan to do a lot of that sort of work. It's what I did a lot of council, being a district council member for 8 years. And you know, there's shovel-ready things we can do with TDOT right now. And I certainly plan to put some pressure on them, since that was the original question. Put pressure on TDOT, early bird gets the worm kind of thing, and get the projects over here in District 51. A couple of those examples, like Representative Beck was working at Gallatin Road and Old Hickory Boulevard for some pedestrian improvements and intersection improvements right there. Extremely dangerous intersection. It's shovel ready. I want to get TDOT moving, and let's get it done. Gallatin Road needs to be completely rebuilt into a multimodal pedestrian corridor. If we had that chance with the transit plan, we need to revisit that. And there's also some shovel-ready things with when it comes to lane width. It's if we could decrease the lane width from 12 feet to 10 feet, that would make a huge difference in slowing down cars, and we need to get that done.
Thank you. This question is for both candidates. Anthony, you will be the first person to answer this question. Safety continues to be one of the most important issues for Tennesseans. According to the Vanderbilt University poll, 72% of respondents indicated support for a red flag law, and 75% of respondents show support for restrictions that would prevent more school shootings. In the face of intense Republican opposition, how will you work across the aisle to rally support for our gun reform in our state?
Great question. I'm sure it's the top of everyone's mind. And of course, as I've said to all of you on the campaign trail, it's my #1 issue, gun safety. I've got 2 children in public schools. The Covenant tragedy was just so beyond appalling. And it's just been despicable for the Republican Party to just not do anything. I mean, it's just been awful. We're all there, and we're all on the same team here, you know, and I know you're with me on that. But I want to get down there and support any laws we can possibly move forward. Again, with the red flag law, the RPOs, with gun storage. If there's anything we can move an inch on, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to work with them. If they'll come to the table, you know, I would love to work with them and get that done. Nationally, I support going even further. I mean, I would support it here in the state level if we could get it done, but banning assault weapons, I'd like to see that. Let's get it all on the table. I'm with it. So it's just become such a tragedy with here locally, and I hope we can move something forward. I plan to work as hard as possible to get anything done and move the ball.
Thank you, Aftyn.
I just like to start with saying the Republicans aren't just doing nothing. They are actively thwarting any progress possible. So after the Covenant school shooting, what bill did they all get behind and pass? They gave civil immunity to gun manufacturers and distributors in our state on the heels of this. So I know red flag laws are popular, but I believe that they are part of a comprehensive gun safety strategy that includes strengthening dispossession firearm laws, safe storage laws, and universal background checks. I also believe that any gun policy in the state of Tennessee should prioritize those most impacted by the violence, and not just West Nashville neighborhoods, but from Memphis and Nashville, our communities of color that have been dealing with the gun epidemic for a very, very long time. It should not take kids dying for the Republican supermajority to step up and do the moral thing in this state. It shouldn't take kids dying. We do not need another shooting for them to pretend to act, right? And I hope that all of you, regardless of who wins, Anthony and I will both be at the legislature supporting the parents and teachers behind this movement to pass meaningful gun control in the state of Tennessee.
So we have Willow from Anthony.
Yeah. Ring my bell for an add-on. I figure I only got a few. I might as well use them. One thing I forgot to mention, I really want to work with the advocacy groups. Moms Demand, the Covenant Moms. I had a really just warm experience with them. Very moving. They've been praying over legislators for the last 40 days, and it's just incredibly moving. Those guys, there's Voices for a Safer Tennessee. So might have some members here. I plan to listen to those groups, and I hope they'll guide me in what's the right policy and what we can get passed. So thank you for all your work.
Okay, so we have another question for both candidates. Aftyn, you will be the first person to answer this question. On April 6, 2023, specific date, it was a really important date in Tennessee history, Representative Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson protested in the House of Representatives to demand stricter gun laws after the horrific Covenant school shooting. Would you have joined them in the well?
I think anyone who knows me in the state of Tennessee knows that I would have absolutely been there with them. But however, I was on the outside of the organizers in this state and in Nashville and across this state came together, and we organized over 17 actions over 2 weeks. It was a massive feat. It was the most beautifully organic moment I have ever witnessed in Tennessee politics after being one of the few statewide organizers the past few years. But I want to take a brief moment and highlight what led up to this moment, okay? The Tennessee Three, their mics were being cut off when talking about meaningful gun control on the House floor. They were refused speakers to testify in their committee hearings when they asked for gun control experts. Their access was cut off to buildings as elected officials. We are talking about the silencing of duly elected representatives in the state of Tennessee, right? And it was this frustration that led to this moment where they decided to pass an arbitrary line in the well and change Tennessee politics forever. For those of you who don't know, I've organized with Representative Gloria Johnson and Justin Jones for Medicaid expansion. Justin Jones and I started a group, Moral Movement Tennessee, where we supported clergy in organizing sit-ins. We have organized together, and I hope you'll let me join them so I can have their backs as the Tennessee Four, maybe too preemptive, but supporting the Tennessee Three at the special session and beyond. Thank you.
100% would have had their backs, and I think we as Democrats have to have each other's backs. We are a team. There are so few of us. We got to have each other's backs, and I would have those guys' backs. And if the Republicans decide, I don't think they will, but if they decide to do this again, we're just going to be right back where we started, and we're going to be doing it all over again. And we're going to make sure we have their backs and not let Republicans subvert democracy. We can't let it happen. So would help them out, and I think the next step is how do we move forward? Again, it's like what do we do to move the gun sense forward? Because that's how this started, right? We we got there because of the laws they wouldn't let us pass. We got there because of the tragedies. And now we need to figure out how do we move our state forward and move our country forward with these laws that we desperately need. So that's what I want to roll up my sleeves and work on. I'd like to move us forward.
Thank you. Well, we now have just questions for each of you that were submitted. So and with these questions, you will be the only one to answer this question. If you want to rebut, you have an opportunity to rebut. Use one of your rebuttals for this if you want to weigh in. But Anthony, the first question is for you. As the owner of East Nashville Beer Works, how do you plan to balance your own interest as a business owner with the interest of the community that you may continue to serve, given that sometimes those interests might not align?
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting question. As far as East Nashville Beer Works, we don't really need much at the state level. I will say I'm down there once a year lobbying for craft beer, and it's been a very interesting learning experience for me. And I think most people align with it, right? You want what I'm getting done down there. And honestly, both Republicans and Democrats vote for our stuff, which has been really cool. It does show that people can work together. I guess beer brings everybody together, right? So look at us here. Yeah, so I mean, we just craft beer is our only issue that we're going to be down there for. I wasn't sure if whoever asked the question may have meant just kind of general business, if like your business sense is in the way of the people or something. And so I definitely wanted, the people come first for me, 100%. I'm elected. District 51 is always going to come first. As far as just like general business acumen, I mean, for me, I run my business a different way too. We're a founding member of Nashville Living Wage, or I'm a founding member of Nashville Living Wage. We're the first business that signed up for Nashville Living Wage, the brewery. So we were happy to be the first one. I run my business a certain way, and there shouldn't be an instance necessarily where that is, but to me, again, the people always come first.
We have a rebuttal from Aftyn.
So, as you all know, I've been an organizer for accountability across the state. And so in the spirit of accountability and transparency, Anthony, I'd love to hear you've accepted PAC money of alcohol PACs that have given to Governor Lee, Speaker Sexton, and former Speaker Cassada. So I'm just curious about that, if you could say a little more to the constituency. And I'm sure there's nothing nefarious, but I just wanted to give you the time to talk about it.
PAC money, what was that again?
The wine and liquor wholesalers PAC.
Yeah. Yes, wine liquor wholesalers. I mean, I'm happy to answer that real quick. They lobby for a lot of things. We actually row together a lot down there for alcohol policy. I mean, usually the wholesalers and the makers. In my mind, I'm always makers first because of breweries and distilleries and that sort of thing. And then the wholesalers have their needs and desires and wishes, and we usually do things together just to related to alcohol policy. So.
Okay. So this question is just for Aftyn. You say you're running to change the status quo. Why do you feel the status quo needs to be changed in House District 51? And what will you do differently?
So, do people feel in the audience that Tennessee is working for them right now? Please raise your hand. No? Okay. Tennessee has been, as I've told people, it has been suffocating to live in this state the past few years with the gripping authoritarianism that is on our necks and across the state and removing us from our democratic representation, for example, in our congressional district. What does the status quo look like? The status quo looks like no female representation in the in the Tennessee House from the Nashville constituency. No, status quo looks like families with trans children having to move out of state to seek medical care. The status quo looks like my friends who are trying to start families having to move out of state to seek medical care to end their pregnancies. This is the status quo, and it is not working for most of us. It feels suffocating to live here, but we can do better. I promise we can do better. And my whole thing is challenging the status quo and giving a voice to who have been neglected by the status quo over the past decade of politics. We need more power at the table. We need more progressives speaking truth to power. As Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without demand, and I promise to demand power every single day.
Thank you. So this question is for both of you. Anthony, you will answer this question first. Tennessee's minimum wage is $7.25 an hour and hasn't been raised since 2009. Do you support raising the minimum wage? If yes, to what amount?
100%, of course. We are long overdue, both federally and at the state level, for a minimum wage increase. I would support at least going up to $15. I think that's a number we can at least bite off and chew there. But if you, being a Nashville living wage member, as I just mentioned, I've gotten to know this issue very closely. And for the Nashville market, our living wage, or just barely living wage, is $17.50 an hour actually. So maybe that's the number we should be going for. And then I think they're actually studying data, and it's going to go up to even $18.50 or $19. We pay everyone that at East Nashville Beer Works. I'm very proud of that. Proud to be successful enough to be able to do that, and just blessed that that's the case. And of course, sometimes you have to adjust your business. You do have to do things to make that happen. And I think part of that is an awareness campaign as well. It's been really good about Nashville Living Wage. Is just letting other small businesses know that, they may have one or two people that they have under that or something. And it's just, hey, what can you do to sort of, get all your employees up above that threshold? But I would certainly support any increase in the minimum wage. Federally, I've heard the $15 tossed around, at least just to get it up something. But I think here the living wage is more around at least $17.50, if not more.
And I just want to commend Anthony for being the first business to do that. It's a really big deal, especially in a state like Tennessee. So I support, I think $15.40 is what Nashville Living Wage said is the baseline. That's the floor. We definitely need a ceiling. I've also been talking to a lot of hospitality workers and industry restaurant workers across the state who are very upset that the sub-minimum wage for tipping workers, for workers that get tipped, hasn't been raised since 1991. So these workers, these restaurant workers are still making $2.90, $2.75 an hour plus tips, and especially now, it just needs to change. Tennessee is also one of 5 states that doesn't have a mandated living wage, and I will support any legislation at the legislature that promotes a living wage, but also ensures, lost my thought. Sorry. I will support any legislation that is moving at the legislature for living wage, but making sure that it also includes worker protections as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are leaving like 30 seconds.
I love that.
Trying to get everyone out here.
People want to get back to the bar.
So you have some efficient candidates here because they are getting their points across with time to spare. So give it up for that. So both candidates, this questions are for you. Afton, you'll be the first one to answer this question. Tennessee has one of the country's strictest abortion bans with narrow exceptions for limited medical emergencies. Molecular, Lord, these are some big words, y'all. I probably should have read this question 3 times. A molar or ectopic pregnancies to remove miscarriage or to save the life of the mother and to prevent serious risk of substantial and irreversible impairment of a major bodily function of a pregnant woman. Those are the medical emergencies, the only medical emergencies at this point where someone has a chance at getting an abortion. Please share your personal beliefs about women's reproductive rights and how you would fight back against Republicans' control of women's bodies if elected to represent House District 51.
So last week I had the opportunity to meet Allie Phillips, who is a young mother in Montgomery County in Clarksville that had to travel over 1,000 miles to end her pregnancy. She set up a GoFundMe. She had to raise money for childcare so that someone could watch her younger child while she traveled all the way to the Northeast to receive an abortion. We shouldn't have to deal with these types of obstacles with regards to our medical care. So first, I will support and sponsor any legislation that destigmatizes abortion access across the state. The Republicans in the state make us feel like those who want to eliminate all abortion are the majority. They are not. They are in the minority. Every single public policy and poll and study that comes out shows that those of us that want to keep abortion access are the majority of voters in this state. Second, I will work on any legislation that seeks to decriminalize pregnancy and abortion. Oh, okay. And three, I promise that I will continue to work with organizations like Planned Parenthood and Healthy and Free Tennessee, I'm on the steering committee of, to ensure abortion access and to reduce the harmful policies that already exist. They are coming after our birth control. They are coming after our birth control, and we need women in the legislature that are willing to fight for this and put our lives on the line so that we can speak truth to power to get concessions from them.
Republicans need to keep their damn hands off women's bodies first. They need to stop their nationwide war on women. It has just gotten so tiring and ridiculous, and I know everyone in here has had it. I plan to do anything and everything possible that Planned Parenthood would like me to do. That's my advocacy group that I go to, obviously, on this issue. I'm honored that we provide a safe space for them at East Nashville Beer Works. We host them once a month with it. It kind of evolved into East Nashtivists, actually, but started as a Planned Parenthood group, and we've hosted them for years, and it's been my honor to do that. My office will always be open. We will try whatever you want to try. There's no legislation Planned Parenthood can hand me that I wouldn't be supportive of. 100%.
This next question is for both candidates. We only have a few more questions, guys. You guys are doing great. How you feeling?
More time on the outro or
You're doing great. But this question is for both candidates. Anthony, you're going to be the first one to answer this question. If elected, how will you use your position of power in moving the state towards more racially equitable outcomes, i.e. closing the racial wealth gap, achieving equity in employment and educational attainment, etc.?
Yeah, another great question. DEI initiatives are very important, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Learned a little bit about this through craft brewing industry, actually, because we've been having a nationwide effort. It's sort of a white dude heavy industry, obviously, and there's been a nationwide effort with craft brewing and the Brewers Association to really get more people interested in craft beer. I think it starts at this is just one example, of course, at the product level, but then the companies as well. We need more inclusion and diversity efforts. So I've learned a lot from that. And at the state level, I would support any policies to push in that direction, whether it's making sure wages are fair and equitable for everybody, audits so that people can see how that you're paying everyone equally, basically, and just look for any opportunities to continue down that path and improve that in the state of Tennessee.
Aftyn?
So a few weeks ago, I had my interview with the Tennessee State Employees Association, and they informed me that there are ongoing studies that the state of Tennessee is paying for to determine whether there's racial disparities and discrepancies in their salaries and in hiring practices. And I just didn't know that this was such a big issue. And as a representative, I fully commit to funding those studies to their entirety. But we really need to understand how racial injustice and systemic racial injustice affect people of color from beginning to end. So for MNPS, I promise to fight for voluntary pre-K spending to make it accessible for everyone. I promise that I will commit to identifying pathways to public and private universities for minority students. When it comes to HBCUs, I promise to work with Representative Love in making sure that TSU gets the reparations that it deserves for decades of underfunding. And finally, I'll work to remove barriers to employment, such as making sure that ban the box applies to private employers, which the state legislature refused to do for sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Just reminding you, we're getting close to the end, and I think there are some rebuttals left, so just putting that out there for you all. This next question is for both candidates. Aftyn, you will be the first one to answer this. Nashville is known for being a child care desert. Many families, particularly single parents, are struggling to find and retain affordable child care for preschool-aged children. At the state level, what can and will you do to alleviate the burdens for members of House District 51 and across the state?
So I had the opportunity to walk with a neighborhood walking group, highly recommend it, in Maplewood and met a gentleman named Chris who explained to me that there was one child care provider in all of Maplewood. And the wait list was super long and that there were no localized options. So I think there's a few things that we can focus on. One is the state of Tennessee is leaving so much federal investment on the table just to own the libs, okay? There is massive funding that we could leverage to build more facilities as well as a diverse set of options for childcare facilities across the state. We need to make sure that families are not paying more than 7% of their household income for childcare, and to make sure that we include those limitations in all of priority legislation. And 3, a big priority of mine is investing in the care economy. Daycare workers, home health workers are some of the most poorly paid people in this state. They care for our children. We deserve to care for them as well as giving them a living wage. And so that will also be part of my affordable child care policy platform. Thank you.
Very much an ongoing issue in East Nashville, especially, and all of District 51, of course. It's parents know it's just incredibly hard to get into a daycare. I mean, it is so difficult. There are not enough of them. We don't have enough access. And if you don't have income, it's even harder. So I think at the state level, we need to be looking for public-private partnerships. We need to be looking for tax credits. We need to be helping the daycares themselves, not just the people, but the daycares. I think if you can incentivize opening more daycares, then we'll have more daycares. It sounds so simple, but we need some programs at the state level to help this out. Pre-K is a big issue of mine as well. I always supported fully funding pre-K at the metro level, and we need to continue to do that and look for more opportunities with pre-K and just continue fully funding it.
Okay. All right, so this next question is for both candidates. Anthony, you're going to be the first one to answer. How do you plan to stand up against the legislative and judicial attacks on trans youth and their families? How will you use your position of power to support those within your community harmed by these attacks?
Absolutely, and I have a long-standing record of defending the LGBT community, of course, on council, whether it was not just defending, but supporting and helping in any way possible. On council, we passed partner benefits, for domestic partnerships, which overwhelmingly help the LGBT community. We did the non-discrimination ordinance, which I then went down to the state and defended that ordinance. Of course, the state always stepping on metro government like they like to do. So I have a record in that regard. With the trans community, the youth, we have to do everything we possibly can. Actually, someone, when I was knocking doors, came up and told me a really personal story with this, that, with the Vanderbilt records breach, that was causing depression and that sort of thing. So these things that are happening are really affecting people on the ground. And we need to make sure we're listening, we're figuring out ways, listening to the communities themselves, coming up with solutions, and then, of course, stopping Republicans from all these horrific policies. And I'll work hard to do so.
So Aftyn, it's your turn. If you all can refrain, we have a format here, so we're going to stick to that format. I will remind people that they do have rebuttals, so if you want to follow up, you can use your rebuttal to do so. Aftyn.
So for those of you who don't know, my partner has a trans son, and the month of April and the final week of March was incredibly upsetting for us. In the wake of the Covenant shooting and the disclosure that the Covenant shooter was trans, I was pulled into a chat with other trans organizers and activists across the state that were fearful of their lives. We identified threats from right-wing groups that they would show up at these Trans Day of Visibility events and threatening our trans kids. And so I had a snapped moment where I decided we need more people talking about the protections for trans kids and our trans communities at the legislature every day. The first thing I would do is I want to reiterate my first bill, which is to curb the expanded state surveillance of our trans community. 2, the state is going after, they're criminalizing mutual aid funds. And for those of you who don't work directly with mutual aid funds, this is a primary monetary channel that a lot of trans community members use to pay bills, And so the state intends to fully go after that so that they cut off any resources for trans folks. And third, every legislative session, I promise to carry a trans Bill of Rights so that we could push back against the far-right narrative that is being emanated by Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire, who have set up their home in Nashville. And I promise to do that. I promise to fight for our trans community.
Okay, we are down to our last 3 questions, guys. Again, to remind everybody, the candidates, you have a couple of rebuttals left if you want to use them. If you want to clarify or rebut anything that you've already said or what your opponent has said, I just want to remind you all of that, and just remind the audience that we want to be respectful of all the candidates. We have these questions, we want to get through them because this is the questions the community has asked us to ask. So we're going to go forward with this. So our next question for both candidates, Aftyn, you're the first person to answer this question. It's been 10 years since the New York Times named Nashville the It City. With that title came a flood of development, jobs, and tourists that the city has struggled to manage. From the state level, what will you do to protect affordable housing for families that are having a hard time keeping up with the out-of-state investment and the subsequent rising of property values?
So the unchecked growth on downtown and our boondoggles for developers as well as billionaires and making Nashville home for bachelorettes isn't going to cut it. And the way we fight that is by fighting state preemption. Who knows what state preemption is? Raise your hand. I imagine asking this in another state where they don't have state preemption and it's just quiet. But this is when the state comes in and they neuter or neutralize any progressive legislation that our blue cities pass, okay? And how does this relate to affordable housing? So one, the state prevents us from imposing impact fees. And for those of you who don't know, impact fees are when big developments come in, you're able to reroute some of that funding for community programming as well as affordable housing. Right now, guess what county is the only county allowed impact fees? Williamson, of course, yes. And second, the state of Tennessee, the state legislature has become increasingly obsessed with our local zoning policies. And when we try to regulate short-term rentals, Airbnbs, they said, nope, not today. And so this is a big issue. It's one of the core tenets of my campaign platform is fighting state preemption and raising awareness to this constituency as to how we can challenge it.
Affordable housing is still a top tier issue in Nashville, of course, just gets worse every day. Certainly at the council level, we worked a lot on that. It is tends to be more of a council issue, but I know there's state opportunities as well. We try to do inclusionary zoning, speaking of the state preempting, and we saw how that went. It was yet another preemption. That was something we were trying to accomplish to get affordable, incentivized, to just really have an incentive to get some affordable units. So of course, we have the MDHA Housing Authority here. The first thing I was going to say is preserving units. So one way you can get affordable housing is preserving, the other way is building, right? So preserving units is always a good thing. We can preserve assets. I did a zoning a while back in Madison, back when I was in the council, that just gave them a couple things, and they were able to preserve an apartment asset and into affordable housing into the future. So you can preserve units with the right measures. Second, we have to build. We want to build on the corridors, of course. I know we got a lot of neighborhoods in here. Build on the corridors, more density, and try to get affordable units that way as well. So we've got to have a multi-pronged approach. We've got to be working public and private. And at the state level, I do want to bring together THDA. We do have a Tennessee Housing Authority with MDHA. And we've done some of that on the Industrial Development Board, which is a board I serve on at Metro, where we can bring those groups together, get the funding together, and build more affordable housing units.
Thank you. All right, we're nearing the end. You guys have done great. You've done great. You ran the race. You only have a few more questions, okay? And this is going to be for both of you. Anthony, you will be the first person to answer this question. The audience is full of community members from House District 51. And we know how special this district is. I mean, I beg to differ. I am in House District 52, but sure. We'd like to know why you love this part of Nashville, and why you choose to live here, and why do you want to represent this vibrant community? And Anthony, you're the first person.
Wow, yeah, it is a very diverse community as far as like the entire district. It's a very interesting district. We've got a little bit of downtown, you got Germantown, of course, East Nashville, our home here, Madison, and then a little bit of Donaldson even. So it's a very interesting collective of Nashville. I love, being an East Nashville person here the last 16 years. I fell in love with East Nashville a long time ago. I actually came over here for the first time in 1994. Being a student at MLK, you know people on every side of town, which was kind of interesting, instead of just being in your one neighborhood. And I was able to come over here. I went to a place called Radio Cafe. Some of you may remember that. Great place. And it was so cool and bohemian to walk around. I felt like a real fish out of water being from Bellevue, trust me. There's a cow pasture out there. And even then I was like, man, this is such a cool area. And so fast forward to 2007, I'm back here. It's time to move the business. It's time for me and Kim to settle somewhere. And I was just like, man, that East Nashville's amazing. So let's check it out. And we did, and we fell in love with it. And we've been in love with it ever since. I hope you feel I think I'm the right person at the right time to represent a very diverse area. I've been here a long time and immersed in the communities here in East Nashville. And I hope I love this district, and I hope I can continue to represent you.
So on Thursday night for my election night watch party, you all are invited. We'll be at Germantown Pub, which for me is a place where I have shared every single political, sentimental moment in my life. After I was arrested in 2019, protesting Speaker Cassida, I celebrated with a glass of white wine and some Nashville dry rubs at Germantown Pub, and it's places like these that make it great. I want to acknowledge that traveling to Madison and Donaldson, Germantown, downtown, this is the best house district in the state of Tennessee. And they know it. And they know it. They know it. But I also love the walkability of my neighborhood. I take my pug to go buy postage at the Eastland Post Office, and then walk to the Goodfill where I refill my shampoo and conditioner. And so it's this neighborhood that has really made me want to stay and call this home. I think also honoring the historical legacy of Nashville and the civil rights organizing. It is incredible to be part of it and a part of its history. And finally, I just want to say that Nashville is in the national spotlight right now. What we do here can be a blueprint for how we take back democracy from the far right in the country, and District 51 will be part of it.
Shout out to Germantown Pub's wings. They are. So this is the very last question before we get into some fun questions for both candidates. You made it to the end. Congratulations. And Aftyn, you're going to be the first person to answer this question. You're both running to represent a very blue dot and a very red state. It's been more important for Democrats to stick together in the face of Republican supermajority in our state. How will you support the other candidate if they win?
I love this. So I often say Tennessee politics is like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. And as difficult as it's been the past 7 years, organizing at the state legislature, every single session with a lot of you here, I have committed to rebuilding Tennessee and rebuilding a better Tennessee. And what that means is working with Democrats and the super minority to expand their power in 2024. And I fully commit to doing that. If Anthony's elected, I fully commit to being at the state legislature during the special session and supporting him. As an organizer, it is also my job to demystify what's happening there and ensuring that you all have the right calls to action so that we can really affect change up there. And I commit to doing all of that, even if Anthony wins on Thursday.
Absolutely, 100%. I will endorse Aftyn immediately if she were to win, and just want everyone to know I'm a team player. I call myself a yellow dog Democrat. You heard that out there? I even have a yellow dog at home. I have a yellow lab. So look forward to supporting her in every way possible at the legislature if she were to win. And just our brewery historically has always had the full gamut of Democrats. I mean, from TNDP, DCDP, TNYD, DCYD, all the Ds have come to the brewery and hung out. We love hosting progressive groups like East Nashtivists and everybody. So we'll always be a home for us on the left there in a safe space. So I want you all to know that you're always going to be welcome there, and I want you to be there. But as far as the question, yes, 100% would happily endorse right away and help in any way possible, any way I can help Aftyn be successful and be a good Democrat.
Well, as you made it through the hard questions, well, I don't know, you might think these are hard. Just so we can wrap it up and you all can kind of get a chance to know them personally. These are just fun questions that we want to ask each candidate. It's a lightning round, so this is not something you expound upon. You just pick an answer, and we'll go from there. And we didn't do a coin toss to say who goes first, but since you went first, that's the last question. Anthony, you get to go first, and then we'll just go back and forth. Are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog, yellow dog.
Flat-faced dogs and fat cats.
All right. Barbie or Oppenheimer? Sure, go ahead.
Nolan is my favorite director, but I'm going to go Barbie because of Gosling.
That was good. Barbie, obviously.
Obviously. After you go first this time. What National Hot Chicken Spice level do you order?
I thought it only comes in hot.
I'm a wuss, so I'm going to go with mild and then sometimes medium. I'm feeling crazy.
Feeling crazy, huh? All right.
Wild.
Aftyn, how do you take your coffee?
A latte a day keeps the doctor away.
Bongo Java cold brew.
Anthony, you go first. What was your first concert?
My first as a young kid with family was Ray Charles at the Opry.
Wow.
Cool show. My first as like on your own, was Hootie and the Blowfish at Starwood Amphitheater. It was awesome.
Britney Spears at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum.
Anthony, pickleball, yes or no?
No, I'm a real tennis player.
Oh!
No offense, I'm just kidding. I love the pickleballers. It's offended all the pickleballers. They're really bad right now.
I don't know what that is, but I'm pro. Absolutely.
And this might be the most important question we've asked all night, at least in my book, because everyone knows that I love karaoke that knows me in this room. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Superstition by Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
I'm a coal miner's daughter by Loretta Lynn.
It's a really good one. You know what? Karaoke together, us. We're doing it. So this concludes the questions. First of all, I just want to thank both of you all for being here and just sharing your ideas and thoughts with your neighbors, your community. What a blessed district you are to have such great candidates vying to represent you. So you are, this district is going to be well served. So we're excited we're always excited when we see great candidates. So you guys have two great ones. Yeah, and so after this is over, they will linger and stick around and do one-on-one conversations if you want. I want to do one more last round to thank all of the sponsors and the organizers for this event. Hold on, let me flip back to the first page so I can get all the lists because there's so many of you. So thank you all for putting this together. Hold on, I thought I could find it and I may have not found it. Well, this was awkward. Thank you. Again, our co-hosts are the East Nashtivists, Planned Parenthood of Middle Tennessee, North Mississippi, Walk Back Nashville, the Nashville Scene, the Nashville Post, Nashville Women's Collective, the Inglewood Neighborhood Association, Lockland Springs Neighborhood Association, Shelby Hoods Neighborhood Association, Easton Neighborhood Association, Edgefield Neighborhood Association, and the East Hill Neighborhood Association. And thank you all for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause. The organizers. And wait, before I pass it over, I also want to give a quick shout out to the timekeeper, Brittany. Thank you so much. You were on point on this time, and I want to recognize you and thank you so much for all you do. So I'm going to pass it over to the organizers to close us out.
They need closing remarks.
Oh, thank you for that.
Not getting out of here that quickly.
My first time moderating, and I missed the key points. before we leave. We did the writing round. But before the close us out will not be, we will be the organizers. Before we do that, we want to make sure that the candidates have an opportunity to give you their closing remarks, their closing statements. And yeah, thank you. It is not. But we're going to go forward with this. Aftyn, you want the coin toss? You want to go first? So Anthony, you can go first with your closing remarks.
Just want to say thank you so much again. I want to officially ask for your vote, of course. I know a lot of people have already voted in here. If you voted for me, thank you. If you voted for Aftyn, just please, if I end up winning, I just ask that you give me a chance, And likewise, if Aftyn wins, I'll do the same. So I really enjoyed tonight. It was nice to get some issues out there and discuss some things, and I hope I can earn your support. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a political dream come true. I feel like I'm living my Barbie fantasy right now. But this is a political dream to have an event here. So I'm so grateful for the staff at Basement East, as well as all the coordinating groups. It really means a lot. And it's truly, as Mattia said, a testament to this district that you have two candidates like Anthony and I that are good people, good progressives, and just have different visions for the seat, right? I promise to be accessible. I promise to be transparent with all of you. I promise when I take hard votes to hold town halls where you care loudly at me. And I've just been so grateful to run for this district. I never wanted to run for office, but I felt compelled when watching the extremism at the state legislature. And I promise to continue to support your causes, to show up for you as you all have shown up tonight. So I'm so grateful, and I'd love for your vote on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay, so that does conclude our conversation tonight. Again, thank you both for being here. We appreciate you, and thank you for running, because choosing to run for office is not an easy choice. So thank you for stepping up and running. We need more of you in the audience to step up and run. And thank you all for being here tonight. That concludes the program. Thank you.
Is it on? Brittany?